Welcome back to the offices of Paradise Township Telephone. This is the Stromberg Carlson Powerboard for the 486 XY Central office. This unit was in pieces when I got it, and there are pieces from several different offices here, so it's kind of a hybrid. The ringing leads going to the office are on that terminal block, and the supervisory and tone leads are all on this block. You can see the wiring diagram, stencil 202-424-143, figure 1 and figure 2. If you go to the blueprints, that'll tell you each and every pinout on that block. From here there were cables that went out to the office, and these could get pretty congested as a XY office grew over the years. I have opted to use Amphenol connectors. There's some plugs up here in the cable rack, and those cables coming off the powerboard are fairly short and terminate in plugs, so the thing can be unplugged and moved fairly easily. This is the frequency marking matrix. You notice there's an M1 through M5 corresponding to the 5 frequencies produced by the powerboard, ringing frequencies, and then there are columns for each connector group. If you need to turn Mark 1 off on the 4600 group, Mark 2, you can control these leads. These leads were cabled out to the mainframe, and sometimes they would become shorted or grounded, and this allowed you to isolate problems. A real frequency marking toggle panel looks like this, and it's as wide as the entire powerboard. This one came from a fairly good sized office. The connector groups located at the top, and then over here you had a series of lamps. There's circuitry in this powerboard that will tell you if there's a short between 2 marking leads. So this panel would allow you to isolate trouble if there was a short or a ground. Then if you start down from the top, this is the common SR circuit. All the alarms and the start signals happen in there. This is a frequency monitoring panel for the ringing machine. It's set up for 2 generators, but I've only got it deployed for the ringing machine 1, so if we want to monitor ringing machine 1, frequency 1, you see the reed vibrating on the 16 2/3 hertz, and here's the voltage output of that ringing generator, 100 volts. If you want to look at generator 2, it's a slightly less than 100. That came out of a GTE office here in Central Illinois. The next module is a fuse and distribution panel. Those are grasshopper fuses, type 35s. Then of course you have the meter that shows the bus voltage and the load in the office. The ultimate capacity of this powerboard was 50 amps when it was built, and you notice there's a breaker here labeled Southwest Bell. I'm using that for the toll board, but apparently where this powerboard came from, there was some Southwest Bell equipment borrowing power or leasing power from the local telco. The last 2 positions were vacant, and I'm using those for breakers for a couple of relay racks. Over here is all your alarms in the office, and we'll talk about this button in another video, but this allows the alarms to be sent up to the switchboard, and if you notice, if it's in the middle position, there are no alarms right now. Continuing on down, here are the transfer relays. You have 2 inductors, AC and DC machine. Come on down. Here's a tone generator. Most of the business on that is on the rear. Here's another tone generator. This is a transistorized tone generator. And then at the very bottom is the RG525 5-frequency ringing generator. It has an integral spare module that can take over any frequency if one of the other 5 should fail. And you notice the plug-in modules, which contain resistors and capacitors to set the tank circuits. Depending on the frequency plan in the office, that's the modules you would plug in. So let's go to the back of the board. Start at the top. This is the back of the terminal blocks with the distribution to the office. Here's the back of the frequency marking toggle switch panel, the common SR or supervisory relay panel. This is the generator frequency and voltage monitoring panel. Here's the fuse and distribution for the DC power and all the controls at the back of the control switches I talked about. Ammeter, voltmeter, right in the center is a buzzer. That's the alarm buzzer. Here's the main shunt for this office. It has a 50 amp capacity. Here is the back of the transfer relays circuit plate, and that's the motor for the AC interrupter, the DC interrupter. Then you get on down here, here's that tone generator I was talking about. This tube type tone generator is what gives the Stromberg system its warm, rich dial tone. You notice that the heaters are lit, the filaments are on in those two tubes. Those are 50 L6 GT. The filaments are a 50 volt filament, so they work directly off the office battery. Here's the back of that transistorized tone generator. It's just, again, just here stored. And then this very nondescript box is the back of the RG525. There's not much to see, there's just a little bit of wire that goes into it on this side. And that's the back of the power board. So I'll post another video. I'll take the covers off and we'll talk about individual circuits from the front again.